There's a moment every year when everyone pretends to be happy at the same time. The lights are blinking, the songs are playing on repeat, and you're there, smiling, trying to feel something that everyone else seems to feel so effortlessly. But inside, there's a weight, a quiet contradiction that no one mentions at the parties, at the dinners, in the rushed hugs. Christmas is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be about connection, warmth, belonging. So why, for so many people, does it feel like the exact opposite? Why does this season turn small wounds into deep chasms? Why does what's meant to bring people together so often expose everything that's broken? The truth is, Christmas isn't difficult by accident. There's an invisible architecture behind that difficulty, something tied to expectations, memories, and the way we build meaning in our lives. And when you understand what's really happening behind the scenes of this celebration, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking the problem is you, because maybe it never was. Before we continue, I just ask that you leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start here. The word that perfectly defines what happens at Christmas is obligation. Not the explicit kind, where someone directly forces something on you, but the invisible kind, the kind you place on yourself without even realizing it. The obligation to feel joy, the obligation to feel grateful, the obligation to turn an ordinary day into something transcendent simply because the calendar says it's time. And here's the paradox, you can't force genuine emotions. The more you try to convince yourself that you should be happy, the more obvious the gap becomes between what you actually feel and what you believe you're supposed to feel. It's like trying to fall asleep while someone is shouting, "Go to sleep now," in your ear. The pressure creates the opposite effect. Christmas works like a social mirror. It reflects back to you everything that is or isn't working in your life. Your relationships, your choices, your absences. During the rest of the year, you can distract yourself, stay busy, avoid certain conversations or certain people. But December doesn't allow for escape. It forces encounters, it forces conversations, it forces you to be in places you may not want to be, with people you may not have chosen to see. And then there's this collective illusion that family automatically means harmony, as if sharing DNA or history guaranteed real connection. But the reality is that many people are sitting at the same table, eating the same food, while living in completely different inner worlds, each one carrying their own private version of resentment, expectation, and disappointment. Each one pretending that this is unity, when in truth it's just physical proximity. Christmas also exposes something uncomfortable about how we create meaning. We need rituals, we need temporal markers that tell us where we are, who we are, what we've accomplished. But when those rituals become automatic, when they turn into obligation instead of choice, they lose the very thing they're meant to provide, meaning. Have you noticed how everyone does the same things at Christmas? The same songs, the same decorations, the same dishes. There's comfort in that, of course. Tradition offers predictability in a chaotic world, but there's also a trap. Because when you repeat the same gestures year after year without questioning why or for what purpose, you're not creating memories, you're following a protocol. And protocols don't nourish the soul. Protocols don't create real connection. They only create the appearance of connection. And maybe that's where the deepest discomfort of Christmas lives, in the gap between appearance and essence, between what you show and what you feel, between the perfect photo and the awkward silence that happened seconds before or after it was taken. What's most interesting is that everyone knows this, everyone feels it, but no one says it. There's a silent agreement to maintain the facade, to protect the illusion. Because if someone admits out loud that it isn't magical, that it isn't special, the whole house of cards collapses. And no one wants to be the person who ruins Christmas. So you smile, you say thank you, you participate. And a part of you keeps wondering whether there's something wrong with you for not being able to feel what everyone else seems to feel so effortlessly. But maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe it's the structure of what we're trying to make happen. Because Christmas asks something impossible of us, that we compress an entire year of connection, gratitude, and love into a few short hours, that we turn complex relationships full of nuance and contradiction into moments of pure harmony. It's as if you took 12 months of real life and tried to squeeze them into a capsule of artificial perfection. And the truth is, relationships don't work like that. They don't fit neatly into marked dates on a calendar. You can't ignore someone for months and then show up with a gift expecting it to make up for your absence. You can't avoid difficult conversations all year and believe a single dinner will create real intimacy. But that's exactly what Christmas invites us to do, to pretend that physical closeness equals emotional closeness. There's also a brutal contrast at play. All year long, you live your life within a certain logic, work, routine, responsibility. You build a rhythm, an identity, a version of yourself that functions in the real world, and then December arrives and demands that you become someone else. the family version of you, the version that belongs to a system you may have spent years trying to rebuild or even escape. It's disorienting because you're not just one person, you're multiple versions of yourself depending on the context. And Christmas forces those versions to collide. Your professional self meets your family self, your independent self meets your role as a son or daughter, the self you chose to become meets the self shaped by other people's expectations, and those versions rarely get along. There's more. Christmas carries an implicit narrative of redemption, as if this time of year has a magical power to fix what's broken, heal what's wounded, reconcile what's divided. Movies, songs, advertisements all reinforce the same idea that at Christmas things get resolved, that at Christmas people finally understand each other, that at Christmas love wins. But what if it doesn't? What if you wake up on December 26th and nothing has changed? The conversation you avoided is still there, waiting. The unresolved conflict remains untouched. That person is still exactly who they've always been. And so are you. The promise of transformation goes unfulfilled, and what's left is a bitter sense of a missed opportunity. That weight is heavy, because now it doesn't feel like you just failed to have a happy Christmas. It feels like you failed at the one moment of the year when even the most complicated relationships are supposed to work. If it didn't work at Christmas, when will it? If you couldn't feel connection on the day when connection is the central theme, what does that say about you? That's where guilt comes in, that subtle but persistent feeling that you're not doing your part, that you're being difficult, demanding, ungrateful, that other people seem to enjoy it, so why can't you? There must be something wrong with you, a flaw in your emotional system. An inability to access something that's supposed to be natural, easy, universal. But here's what no one tells you. Feeling out of place at Christmas isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of awareness. It's the honest recognition that collective rituals don't always serve individual needs, that standardized celebrations don't always accommodate singular experiences, that you can love the people in your life and still not want to celebrate the way you're expected to. The difficulty isn't in you, it's in the gap between what Christmas promises and what it can actually deliver. And that distance isn't accidental, it's built, reinforced, and sustained by a system that profits from your dissatisfaction. Think about it. Modern Christmas isn't about reflection or genuine connection. It's about consumption, about creating a list of needs you didn't have 3 weeks ago, about turning love into a commercial transaction. You show affection by buying, you prove your worth by being generous, you measure the quality of your relationships by the price tags under the tree. And if you don't have the resources to play this game, then you carry an extra layer of inadequacy. Not only do you not feel the magic, you also can't perform the abundance the season demands. There's a quiet kind of violence in this, in the way Christmas turns celebration into financial obligation, in the way it measures human connection in dollars spent, and the most insidious part is that it disguises itself as generosity, as Christmas spirit, as goodwill, but underneath it's just another form of social hierarchy. Who can give more? Who can celebrate better? Who can create the most memorable experience? Then there's amplified loneliness. If you're alone during the rest of the year, you can normalize it. You can build a life that makes sense within that reality. You adapt. But at Christmas, your loneliness is put on display. Everyone around you is supposedly surrounded by people. Every commercial shows families reunited, friends toasting, couples exchanging knowing looks. And you're exactly where you've always been, but now it feels wrong, insufficient, embarrassing. Christmas doesn't allow you to simply exist. It forces you to compare, to measure your life against an impossible standard of collective happiness. And in that comparison, you always lose. Because the Christmas people show isn't the Christmas they live. It's the edited version, filtered, optimized for social consumption. You don't see the arguments on the way to dinner. You don't see the discomfort at the table. You don't see the relief when it's finally over. You only see the glossy surface. And you conclude that the problem is you. But here's something crucial. The discomfort you feel isn't weakness. It's clarity. It's your emotional system refusing to accept something that doesn't feel true. Your unease is a compass pointing toward a truth you haven't fully named yet. The truth that forced celebrations don't create real connection, that empty rituals don't nourish the soul, that you can participate in everything and still belong to nothing. And maybe the first step in changing your relationship with Christmas is to stop fighting what you feel, to stop trying to convince yourself that you should be happy, to stop pretending it works when it doesn't. Because while you're spending energy trying to feel what you don't feel, you're leaving no space to discover what actually matters to you. The question isn't, why can't I enjoy Christmas? The question is, what do I really need at this time of year? And those are very different questions. Here's what no one admits out loud. Most people are pretending too. That family that looks perfect in the photo, they argued in the car on the way to the party. That smiling couple exchanging gifts, one of them has been thinking about ending the relationship for months. That friend who always hosts elaborate dinners, He spends the entire night anxious, trying to control every detail so he doesn't have to feel the emptiness that comes when it's all over. Christmas has created a collective theater where everyone is both actor and audience at the same time. You perform happiness while watching everyone else perform theirs, and everyone silently agrees not to break the illusion. Because if someone admits that the emperor has no clothes, the whole system collapses, but keeping up this act is deeply exhausting. You spend an enormous amount of energy trying to look happy when you could simply not be, when you could just exist in whatever you're actually feeling without turning it into shame or failure. The problem is that emotional honesty in December is treated like betrayal, as if you were ruining the magic for everyone else, when in reality you're just refusing to ruin yourself. And there's another layer to this. Christmas works like a twisted reward system. It tells you that if you do everything right, buy the right things, gather the right people, decorate the right way, then you'll finally feel that connection, that belonging, that sense of wholeness everyone is chasing. But it's an empty promise, because real connection doesn't come from standardized rituals. It comes from vulnerability, from time, from genuine presence. And those things don't fit into a 48-hour holiday schedule. Have you noticed how people say, I can't wait for Christmas to be over, but always with a nervous laugh like it's a joke? It's not a joke. It's the only socially acceptable way to admit that it's draining you, that you're counting the minutes until you can take the mask off, go home, and finally breathe. Because the truth is, most people don't want more Christmas. They want less. They want simplicity. They want authenticity. They want permission to say, I'm not okay, without it being seen as ingratitude. They want real relationships instead of performances, connection without cost, without acting, without the constant feeling of being evaluated. But as long as everyone keeps pretending everything is fine, nothing changes. As long as you keep protecting other people's illusion, you stay trapped in your own. And next year's Christmas will look exactly like this one, and the one before it, and all the others that left you with that strange feeling of having participated in something that never really had anything to do with you. So maybe it's time to ask a different question. Not, how do I make Christmas work for me? But what if I simply stop trying? What if, instead of looking for ways to fit your truth into the structure of Christmas, you allow your truth to completely dismantle that structure? That sounds radical. And it is. Because it means letting go of approval. It means accepting that some people will be disappointed, confused, even hurt by your choices. It means carrying the discomfort of being different at a time when uniformity is mistaken for togetherness. But here's what you gain in return. Yourself. The version of you that isn't constantly betraying itself to meet other people's expectations. And this doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to make speeches or justify every decision. You simply stop showing up where you don't want to be. You stop giving gifts that mean nothing. You stop smiling through conversations that drain you. You stop pretending everything is fine when it isn't. And you watch what happens. You watch who stays. You watch which relationships survive your honesty, and which ones only existed because you kept performing. Because there's a brutal revelation in this process. You discover who truly loves you and who only loves the convenient version of you. And yes, that discovery can be painful. It can be lonely. But it's also liberating, because you stop investing energy in connections that were never real to begin with. Christmas is hard because it's the ultimate test of authenticity. It compresses all your contradictions into a single point of pressure, and you can keep giving in, keep performing, keep bending until you break, or you can use that discomfort as fuel, as the push you needed to finally stop living for other people. The truth is, you already know what you need to do. You know which conversations you need to have. You know which boundaries you need to set. You know which people drain you and which ones sustain you. You know what is obligation and what is choice. You've always known. What was missing wasn't courage, or maybe it wasn't courage, but enough desperation. That point where continuing to pretend hurts more than finally stopping. And when you reach that point, not next year's Christmas, but now in this exact moment, while there's still time to do something different, you'll realize something. The difficulty was never really about Christmas. It was about you trying to live a life that isn't yours. Christmas just had the decency to make that impossible to ignore. So, what are you going to do with that information? If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and let me know what you thought in the comments. See you in the next one.